Welcome to a course on complex analysis. In the previous lecture, we have seen that there are three types of isolated singularities. And we have also explored one type among that, which is poles. Right? In this lecture, we will explore about the other two types of singularities. So the second type of singularity is the essential singularity, right? So when every bn is 0, then f of z just takes the form summation n runs from 0 to infinity an upon z minus z naught to the power n. We initially identified that z naught is a point of singularity, and when we try to expand the given function in a Lorentz series, we do not get any negative power of uh, z minus z naught. Okay, only then every bn can be 0. So this is valid in this region only. This is not valid in the entire disk. This is valid in the punctured disk only, right? So in this case, z naught is called as a removable singular point. It is called as a removable singular point. So if you try to evaluate the residue at a removable singular point, it is always 0 because we do not have any negative powers of z minus z naught. So the residue for any removable singular point is 0. Let us note it down. So note residue of any function, residue of f of z at its removable singularity is 0, right? Now let us see some examples. We have the function f of z equals 1 minus cosine of z upon z squared. Okay, so here z equals 0 is the isolated, is the only isolated singularity. We know that cosine of z may be written as 1 minus z squared upon 2 factorial plus z to the power 4 upon 4 factorial minus z to the power 6 upon 6 factorial plus etc. Therefore, 1 minus cosine of z is simply z squared upon 2 factorial minus z to the power 4 upon 4 factorial plus z to the power 6 upon 6 factorial minus etc. Right? Therefore, 1 minus cosine of z upon z squared. This is 1 upon 2 factorial minus z squared upon 4 factorial plus z power 4 upon 6 factorial minus etc. Here we notice that no negative power of z is involved. Thus, z equals 0 is a removable singularity to this f of z. Right? We move to the next example. Okay, actually, we are moving to the next concept, that is essential singularity. If And okay, if you can just make a mere guess, right? Here in the first case, when the principal part contains a finite number of terms, then we have the concept of pole, right? When the principal part do not contain any term, then it is a removable singularity. Then we are left with what? Infinite number of terms, right? So if an infinite number of the coefficients of in the principal part is available, by availability I mean those values are non-zero. Okay, infinite number of the coefficients bn in the principal part are non-zero, then z naught is said to be an essential singular point of the function f. Okay, we now see an example. So e to the power 1 upon c. So this takes the form summation n runs from 0 to infinity 1 upon n factorial multiplied with 1 upon c to the power n. That is 1 plus 1 upon 1 factorial multiplied with 1 upon c plus 1 upon 2 factorial multiplied with 1 upon c squared plus 1 upon 3 factorial multiplied with 1 upon c cube plus etc. with the validity in this region. So this function has a singularity at z equals 0, and since the principal part contains infinite number of non-zero bn's, we have z equals 0 is a essential singularity, right? Okay, so this is an essential singularity for this function e to the power 1 upon z. Okay, so now problem solving we'll do separately. Now we'll move to the next concept, that is residues at poles. Okay, here this theorem tells us an easy way of calculating the residue of a function if it admits a pole at a particular point. Okay, here it is said that an isolated singular point z naught of a function is a pole. This is a pole of order m if and only if f of z can be written in this form, where this function phi of z is analytic and non-zero at z naught. Okay. Moreover, this residue may be is just evaluating the function phi at the point z naught if m is equal to 1, and if m is bigger than or equals to, then the derivative of phi m minus 1 times upon m minus 1 factorial, and this has to be evaluated at the point z naught. Okay, even if you don't have even if it is not specifically given, you can consider it for any m. Then what happens? M minus 1, when m equals 1, 1 minus 1, 0, zeroth derivative means the function evaluating at that point. 1 minus 1 factorial is 0 factorial, that is equal to 1. So even if it is not explicitly specified, it implicitly tells us that this is going to happen when m equals 1, right? Now let us get into the proof of this theorem. Okay, okay, let me mark this as equation 1, this as equation 2, and this as equation 3. observe. Okay, now, okay, the observation that I have explained you already. So we first assume f of z has the form, that is f of z equals phi of z upon z minus z naught to the power m. And since phi of z naught, okay, phi of z is analytic at z naught, it has a Taylor series representation at z equals z naught. So that is phi of z equals phi of z naught plus phi prime of z naught upon 1 factorial multiplied with z minus z naught plus phi double prime of z naught upon 2 factorial multiplied with z minus z naught whole squared plus etc. till phi n till m minus 1th derivative I am writing here, z naught upon m minus 1 factorial multiplied with z minus z naught to the power m minus 1, then plus summation n runs from m to infinity mth derivative at z naught upon m factorial multiplied with z minus z naught to the power m. So this is what we have. Okay, sorry, I made it m, I'll have to have this as n. Okay, n is to be varied from m to infinity. So this is what we have. This is valid, the above is valid in some neighborhood absolute of z minus z naught smaller than epsilon, which is the neighborhood of z naught. Okay, then your f of z, that is your phi of z upon z minus z naught to the power m, this is 1 upon z minus z naught to the power m, which is to be multiplied with phi of z naught plus phi prime of z naught upon 1 factorial multiplied with z minus z naught plus phi double prime of z naught upon 2 factorial z minus z naught squared etc. till phi m minus 1th derivative at z naught upon m minus 1 factorial multiplied with z minus z naught to the power m minus 1 plus summation n runs from m to infinity nth derivative at z naught upon n factorial multiplied with z minus z naught to the power n. Okay, when we take this 1 upon z minus z naught to the power m inside, we are going to get phi of z naught upon z minus z naught to the power m plus phi prime of z naught upon 1 factorial multiplied with 1 upon z minus z naught to the power m minus 1 plus phi double prime of z naught upon 2 factorial multiplied with 1 upon z minus z naught to the power m minus 2 till mth derivative, sorry, m minus 1th derivative at z naught upon m minus 1 factorial multiplied with 1 upon z minus z naught to the power 1 upon z minus z naught only, because we have divide in the denominator we have the power m and in the numerator we have the power m minus 1. So this is what we are going to have. Then plus summation n runs from m to infinity nth derivative of z naught upon n factorial multiplied with z minus z naught to the power n minus m. Okay, this is what we are going to have. So from this is valid in the region. Okay, this is the Lorentz series expansion of f of z at z naught. Okay, so residue of f of z at z equals z naught is what? Coefficient of 1 upon z minus z naught in its Lorentz series expansion. What is that here? It is m minus 1th derivative phi m minus 1th derivative at z naught upon m minus 1 factorial multi. This is it. Am I right? So we have proved the one way. Now we'll have to prove the converse. Now to prove the converse part, and okay, just a minute. Actually, we haven't completed the proof. From this, we have taken down what is the residue value. Since the principal part contains finite number of terms and your phi of z naught is not equal to 0, this is by hypothesis. It is given in the statement itself. You can just revisit the statement and it is given that your phi of z is analytic and non-zero at z naught. So that is why this means what? Your phi of z naught is not equal to 0. So by our assumption, since this is not equal to 0, by hypothesis, we conclude f of z has a pole of order m at z equals z naught. Right? Now we will move to the converse part of the theorem. So conversely, assume z naught is a pole of order m of the function f of z. Then the Lorentz series expansion of the function f of z is f of z equals summation n runs from 0 to infinity an multiplied with z minus z naught to the power n plus b1 upon z minus z naught plus b2 upon z minus z naught whole square plus etc. till bm minus 1 upon z minus z naught to the power m minus 1 plus bm upon z minus z naught to the power m with bm not equals 0, which is valid in the punctured disk 0 smaller than absolute of z minus z naught, which is smaller than r2. Okay, r2 or whatever you want you can take. Okay, which is valid in some punctured disk. Okay, now we just define a function phi of z by phi of z equals z minus z naught to the power m multiplied with f of z when z naught equals z naught, and this equated to bm when z equals z naught. Okay, so you can very well check this function is analytic. Okay, so that one let me leave it as an exercise. So here just me let me just write, it is easy to verify. Phi of z has a power series representation. Okay, we are just expanding this in the power series representation, power series expansion. Phi of z equals bm, which is phi of z naught is bm, right? So plus, okay, that is power series representation via Taylor series. Okay, so that is your phi of z equals phi of z naught plus phi prime of z naught upon 1 factorial plus phi double prime of z naught upon 2 factorial multiplied with actually here we'll have multiplied with z minus z naught plus phi double prime of z naught upon 2 factorial multiplied with z minus z naught squared, and it goes till what, till phi nth derivative. Okay, here we are having till m, right? Okay, anyway it goes on, we just do till this. Okay, let us see what is phi of z naught. So from the definition you may very well see that it is bm plus when you differentiate it for one time. Okay, so that one let me do it as a rough part. So from here, your phi prime of z, when you differentiate it for the first time, you would get m z minus z naught to the power m minus 1, and which is to be, okay, then f of z plus z minus z naught to the power m f prime of z. So which means we'll have to differentiate f prime as well. When you differentiate f prime, you are going to get, so your f of z, let me write here, your f of z may be written as a naught plus a1 z minus z naught plus a2 z minus z naught squared, it goes, and then you have this b terms. Okay, when you differentiate it for the one time, you would get simply a1 2a2 z minus z naught plus 3a3 z minus z naught squared plus etc. till here you would have minus b1 upon z minus z naught squared, then minus 2b2 upon z minus z naught cube minus 3b3 upon z minus z naught to the power 4, and it goes like this. So when you substitute this value f prime of z into this and f of z into this and find out the values. Okay, so here you just look for the values which do not have z naught. Okay, when you multiply your f of z with this m minus 1 term, here it is, right? So m times of b m minus 1, only this will not involve the term z naught. Okay, and here when you just multiply this one with this, here you will have something which involves m. Okay, and that would be minus m minus, sorry, m plus 1 if I'm not wrong. So when it is 3 we'll have 3. So for the term with m we'll have m. Okay, m, no, we need the power m, right? So the power m will happen in m minus 1 only. So minus of m minus 1 b m minus 1. So these two terms are left alone. So this is going to be simply what? When you just take this minus inside and do the thing, you will get bm minus 1. In a similar way, you can evaluate other terms. Okay, that is, if you evaluate what is your phi double prime of z naught, you may very well see it is going to be simply bm minus 2. Okay, you can just check these things, right? So proceeding here, it is going to be phi of z naught is what? Bm, and this is bm minus 1 multiplied with z minus z naught plus here you would get bm minus 2 multiplied with 2 factorial upon 2 factorial z minus z naught whole squared, and it goes till b2. You will have something here, and z minus z naught to the power m minus 2 plus b1 z minus z naught to the power m minus 1, and then plus summation n runs from 0 to infinity an z minus z naught to the power m plus 1. Okay, since this is a pair series, this is valid throughout the entire disk. Absolute of z minus z naught smaller than r2. So from this we can just come to a conclusion. Okay, so anyway, we are about to conclude. Just a minute, I'll just remove my video so that I can make use of the space here itself. Okay, so after which, from this we just come to a conclusion that your phi of z is analytic in the disk. Therefore, this disk contains the point z naught as well. So, in particular, phi of z is analytic at z naught, and your phi of z naught is equal to bm, which is not equal to 0. Since we assumed it has a pole of order m, which means in the Lorentz series expansion that bm must not be equal to 0, and that is the value of phi of z naught. Hence, that is not equal to 0. So, this completes the proof. Right? Now, we will see some examples. The first example. Okay, here, what is the main ideology that we have? If we find the function as a pole, the residues can be easily found. Without even expanding that in the Lorentz series, we can find its residues. So that is the ideology for which only we are going to do the problems. Here the function f of z is given to be z plus 1 upon z squared plus 9. Okay, here the function has an isolated singularities at z equals plus or minus 3i. Okay, so your f of z may be written as your phi of z upon z minus 3i. This is one form, or some psi of z upon z plus 3i, which is the other form. Okay, so here your phi of z is nothing but z plus 1 upon z plus 3i, and your psi of z is z plus 1 upon z minus 3i. Phi of z is analytic at z equals 3i, and psi of z is analytic at z equals minus 3i. Hence, residue of f of z at z equals 3i is. So, we are evaluating at simple poles. So, it is just phi of 3i. So, 3i plus 1 upon 3i plus 3i. So, it is 3i plus 1 upon 6i. We usually do not have a I in the denominator, so we just multiply with minus I and minus I. So this simply becomes 3 minus iota upon 6. This is the residue of the function at z equals 3a. And here residue of f of z at z equals minus 3a, for which what do? We'll have to evaluate the function psi at minus 3a. So that is minus 3i plus 1 upon minus 3i minus 3i. So which is minus 3i plus 1 upon minus 6i. We just multiply with I in the numerator and the denominator. So it becomes 3 minus, okay. So it is going to be 3 plus I upon 6. Right? So we have found the residues. We don't have to expand that in the Lorentz series and do all those things. You just see, equate your denominator to 0 and find the singularities. Most probably the singularities that you are about to get is a pole. Okay, you can just make use of these ideologies to do it. The next example is f of z equals z squared plus 2z upon z minus I whole cube. Right? So here this function has a singularity at z equals I, that is thrice. That is a pole of order 3. Hence, yeah, okay, let us give the form. F of z is phi of z upon z minus I to the power 3. We see that here, okay, what should we do? This has a pole. When we write things in this form, we should write things in this form, and we'll have to make sure that the numerator part is analytic. If the numerator part is analytic, then we have no issues. We can come to a conclusion that the denominator gives you the whole. Okay. So here f of z can be written like this, with phi of z equals z squared plus 2z, which is analytic everywhere. Therefore, residue of the function f of z at z equals I is 3 minus 1. So, second derivative of this function evaluated at the point what? Iota upon 2 factorial. So, this is our residue value. What is the second derivative of this function? That is, when you find the first derivative, it is 2z plus 2. When you find the second derivative, it is simply 2, and this has to be evaluated at the point I upon 2 factorial, which is simply 2 upon 2, which is equal to 1. Okay, so if I am not wrong, yes. Therefore, residue of this function is this. Now, if I make some slight change in this, f of z is z cube plus 2z upon z minus I to the power 3. So, the same thing happens with f of z may be written as some psi of z upon z minus I to the power 3 with psi of z equals z cube plus 2z. So the residue of this function f of z at the point z equals I is the second derivative evaluated at the point I upon 2 factorial. So it is going to be, when you differentiate it for the 2 times, we would get 6z evaluated at the point I upon 2 factorial. So which is 6i upon 2, which is equal to 3i. So we have evaluated the residue value. Now we move to the next problem. F of z equals log z whole cube upon z squared plus 1. Now we just consider it in this form, and we'll have to make sure that our phi of z is analytic. So phi of c, which is log c to the power 3, we consider log z as log r plus iota times of theta with r positive and theta to vary in this. Okay. Now this function is analytic in the specified thing. So we consider this branch. Consider the branch. Hence it is analytic. Now we can calculate the residue of f of z at two different points. Okay, what are those points? First of all, let us write that one. F of z may be written as, I have just written this as phi of z. Okay, no issues. Let me use psi of z upon z plus iota, where your psi of z is log z cube upon z minus iota, right? And this also takes the form, some fees I have taken, and okay, let me take chi of z upon z minus iota, where your chi, okay, if you are not comfortable with this, let me take zeta. Zeta of z is log z cube upon z plus iota. Okay, if you look at this thing, the poles iota and minus iota are simple poles. Therefore residue of the function f of z at z equals minus iota is just evaluating this function at minus iota, that is log minus iota whole cube upon minus iota, right? And similarly residue z equals iota to this thing is zeta of iota, therefore log iota whole cube upon iota plus iota. So this is log of minus iota whole cube. So you cannot write it as 3 times of log. You cannot do it so. Okay, minus 2i, and this is log I whole cube upon 2i. Okay, if you just find the values of log and see the things, you can write. Okay, let me do it here. Log iota shall be written as log of 0 squared plus 1 squared to the power 1 upon 2 plus iota times of tan inverse of 1 upon 0. So we just give this expression. So which is what? Which is log 1 plus iota times of pi upon 2. So which is nothing but iota times of pi upon 2. Right? Similarly for log minus I, it is log 0 squared plus minus 1 squared to the power 1 upon 2 plus iota times of tan inverse of minus 1 upon 0. So minus pi by 2 is not included in it. Therefore, we'll consider 3 pi by 2. Okay. So log 1 plus iota times of 3 pi by 2. So which is iota times of 3 pi by 2. Right. So when you substitute into this, we get residue of f of z at z equals minus iota. This is iota times of 3 pi by 2 whole cube upon minus 2i. So when you make cube minus iota, so 27 pi cube upon 8 divided by minus 2i. So iota and iota minus minus gets cancelled. So the answer is 27 pi cube upon 16. Similarly, residue of the function at this point is iota pi upon 2 whole cube upon 2I, which is equal to minus iota. So we would get minus iota and that is gets cancelled. So minus pi cube upon 8 minus pi cube upon 16. Right? So the next example that we are going to see is f of z equals sin hz upon z to the power 4. You can very well see that the numerator part is an analytic function, that is analytic everywhere. So this one we take it as phi of z upon z to the power 4. So when you have to calculate residue of the function at z equals 0 is third derivative of this one upon 3 factorial. So when you differentiate your hyperbolic sin z for 3 times, you would get hyperbolic cos z, and that is to be evaluated at the point z equals 0 upon 3 factorial, which is 1 upon 3 factorial, that is 1 upon 6. Right? Uh, I wish to conclude this lecture with an exercise, that is z multiplied with e power z minus 1. Okay, so if you are willing to consider this, you just try to take this e power z, you just evaluate what is this value, you have to consider it in this form. Okay, only z equals 0 is the singular point, and you can evaluate e power z minus 1, that is not becoming 0 anywhere. Therefore the numerator part is now that 1 upon e to the power z minus 1 is an analytic function near 0. Okay, near 0 it is analytic. Now do the things and calculate its residue value. So when you calculate the residue value, then you would get residue of f of z at z equals 0 is going to be minus 1 upon 2. I leave this as an exercise to you people to verify. Thank you.